evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. President Xi Jinping vows to build a strong and prosperous country as he is elected for a third term. Lawmakers throw their weight behind a government plan to increase the number of nurses. And the first installment of this year's consumption vouchers will be handed out in just over a month. President Xi Jinping has been unanimously elected for an unprecedented third term. He took the oath of office and pledged to build a socialist country that is prosperous, strong, and democratic. Janice Lowe reports.
赞成2952票.
There was a standing ovation in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing this morning when Xi Jinping secured an unprecedented third term as president. Xi was elected unanimously by 2,952 National People's Congress delegates present in the hall. The 69-year-old was also re-elected as chairman of the Central Military Commission. Xi was congratulated by Li Jianshu, outgoing chairman of the NPC Standing Committee, and Politburo member Li Qiang, who is expected to become the next premier. Taking his oath of office, Xi vowed to make China prosperous, strong, and democratic.
I pledge my allegiance to the Constitution of the People's Republic of China, to safeguard the Constitution authority, fulfill my legal obligations, be loyal to the country and the people, be committed and honest in my duty.
Also elected unanimously today were Zhao Leji, who becomes chairman of the new NPC Standing Committee, succeeding Li Jianshu.
韩正同志当选为中华人民共和国副主席。
and Han Zheng, who succeeds Wang Qishan as vice president. Other newly elected leaders, including 14 vice chairmen of the NPC Standing Committee, were sworn in after Xi. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
Former Chief Executive Leng Chunying has been re-elected as a vice chairman of the National Committee of China's top political advisory body. Leng is one of 23 people to hold that position, but the only one from Hong Kong. Meanwhile, 16 Hong Kongers were among 299 delegates chosen as members of the Standing Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Congress. They include Executive Councillor Ko Wing-man. Lawmakers have come out in support of the government's plan to allow non-locally trained nurses to work here without taking a licensing exam, but they expressed concern about their qualifications and whether Hong Kong's working environment is attractive enough. Macy Mock reports.
Legislators on the Health Services panel today examined a government plan to overcome an acute nursing shortage. Under a proposal, non-locally trained nurses, including overseas residents, can register here without taking the licensing exam. But successful applicants will have to work in a government-approved institution for some time. Health Chief Lo Chong-mao said in 2021, only 11 out of 73 non-locally trained nurses passed the written exam. The low success rate could have discouraged prospective applicants. Judy Chan was among the lawmakers who supported the proposal, but feared that the working conditions here could deter overseas nurses. Lo later addressed Chan's concerns.
Regarding the attraction, in fact, the more we attract talents from outside and increase our manpower, the more favorable will be their working environment.
Lo also brushed off worries about qualifications of overseas applicants.
They will have their credentials assessed by the respective council and boards. looking at their working experience. So that will be an important gatekeeper for us. At the same time, once they are in the service, we have on-the-job supervision by the respective team, including very experienced nurses and doctors to supervise the work of these newly recruited staff from overseas.
A bill to amend the Nurses Registration Ordinance is expected to be submitted to the Legislative Council in 3 months. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Rapid antigen tests for all students will become history from next Thursday. They will no longer be required to do the daily test before going to school. Students, teaching staff, and visitors will not need to have a temperature check when entering campuses. But schools were reminded to monitor the health of their staff and students and report suspected cases of infectious disease outbreaks. The first installment of consumption vouchers will be handed out next month, a week after the Easter break. Finance Chief Paul Chan expects the handout to give the economy a slight boost. Janice Lowe reports.
Permanent residents and new arrivals aged 18 or above will get $5,000, while those coming to study or live in a city through different admission schemes will receive half the amount. The first installment of $3,000, or $1,500 for those on admission schemes, will be handed out on April 16. The rest of the money will be paid on July 16. Both installments will be forfeited after 6 months. People who received the vouchers last year need not register again, but they have to stick with the same payment platform. They can only switch the payment method when the remainder is disbursed on July 16. This is because the government hopes to dish out the first tranche as soon as possible. Like previously, the vouchers can only be spent for retail, catering, and service outlets.
We think the primary objective of the consumption voucher scheme is to stimulate domestic consumption. The current arrangement is already striking a proper balance between the policy objective of the consumption voucher scheme and the maximum convenience afforded to our citizens.
Chan expects the economy to get a boost.
The economic impact of this time round, the consumption voucher scheme this year is about 0.6% positive increase in the GDP.
Those who have lost their payment accounts should inform the authorities before March 29. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
Overseas, 7 people are dead and 25 injured after a gunman opened fire at a Jehovah's Witness meeting hall in the German city of Hamburg. The motive of the attack is not known, but the gunman is believed to be among the fatalities, while 8 of those wounded are fighting for their lives. Sachin Katvi has the story.
Gunshots filled the air around dinner time last night in the northern German city of Hamburg. The target was a Jehovah's Witness center where people had gathered for a Bible study. Mobile phone footage showed a man firing randomly into a building from a window ledge on the first floor.
Wurden auch Menschenpersonen rausgetragen.
The person who captured the footage said he heard at least 25 shots, then a single shot after a brief interval. A special armed police unit happened to be at the scene at the time and responded immediately. Officers carried the injured to safety as a heavily armed tactical unit stood by outside the scene in Gross Borstel, a few kilometers from the city center. Police searching the premises were joined by bomb detection officers to check the building for any hidden explosives. Emergency vehicles swarmed the scene and firefighters waited for the green light to enter the building. A motive for the shooting has yet to be established. Sachin Katvi, HKIBC.
Former Malaysian Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin is claiming that corruption and money laundering charges against him are politically motivated.
This is part of political and selective persecution. Yeah? It's not that it is corruption. Of course, you have to go to court and let the court decide what's the real situation. And I am innocent until proven guilty by the court.
Muhyiddin was released on bail after pleading not guilty when he appeared in court in Kuala Lumpur. He's charged with receiving $51 million in bribes for his party and money laundering involving $43 million. Current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim denied Muhyiddin's claim of a political conspiracy. Another former Malaysian head of government, Najib Razak, is in jail for corruption. A judge in New York has jailed a former Goldman Sachs banker in connection with Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund scam. This comes as Malaysia tries to get the U.S. investment bank to cough up more money for its role in the 1MDB scandal.
Goldman Sachs' former head in Malaysia, Roger Ng, left court in New York after receiving a 10-year jail sentence. Ng was convicted for his role in the massive financial corruption scheme that saw billions of dollars looted from Malaysia's 1MDB sovereign wealth fund back in 2016. The scandal led to massive fines for Goldman and rocked Malaysian politics. Ng had argued that he was a fall guy for bigger players, but prosecutors said he played a key role in a scheme in which money meant for development landed in the pockets of corrupt Malaysian politicians and bankers. Goldman Sachs had reached a settlement of $2.5 billion in 2020 in exchange for Malaysia dropping charges against the lender. But Malaysia's new government said the amount was too small. One critic, Johari Abdul Ghani, has been appointed as the point man in Malaysia's bid to get more money from the US bank.
Hong Kong stocks slumped to a 4-month low on renewed concerns about China's recovery. The Hang Seng Index shed 3%, with insurance giant AIA sinking after posting disappointing annual results. Sachin Katvi reports.
Insurer AIA, which does most of its business in Asia, reported that net profit for last year came in at $282 million, a 96% plunge from a year ago. Its value of new business, or VONB, fell 8% to just over $3 billion. The VONB for the mainland, AIA's biggest market, plunged 17%. But the insurer expects to pick up business this year as China returns to normality after COVID. AIA shares dropped 4.6%. JD.com tumbled 11.5% after reporting a 7% increase in fourth quarter revenue to $42.8 billion. The rise was below market estimates. The Hang Seng Index closed the day down 3%. Since January, the Hong Kong benchmark has declined 14%. Although the mainland has lifted COVID curbs, recovery remains sluggish and trade has not picked up. Sachin Katvi, HKIBC.
Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 606 points. Top 10 active stocks, Tencent was down $8.60. Meituan was down $2. HSBC was down $2.15, and China Mobile down $1.90. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 8.31, pound sterling at 9.40. And over in Europe, London FTSE is currently down 133 points. Life has changed dramatically for Britain's ugliest dog. Since winning the unenviable title in a competition, Peggy has been signed up by a dog modeling agency and may even become a film star.
I'd walk down the street with her and you'd see people look at her and maybe whisper to their friends or sort of look at like there was something wrong with her or wanting to know what was wrong with her, but they wouldn't necessarily approach us in the street, they'd just whisper among themselves. Whereas now she's sort of been on telly a little bit and people want to come up, they want to have selfies with her, they want to stroke her, just they all seem to know, people know who she is already. I just think you're used to dogs looking a certain way, curly and cuddly, and she's obviously no fair, got quite a few sort of blackheads, her tongue's constantly hanging out. She's strange, but she's lovely. As like personality-wise, she's amazing.
People flocked to Victoria Park today as the Hong Kong Flower Show returned after a 3-year suspension. Visitors used their phones to take shots of the 400,000 flowers on show. Some used sophisticated cameras to snap photos. This year, hydrangeas are the star of the show. The display will continue for 9 more days, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. On to the weather now. Warm and dry tomorrow, with the temperature between 20 and 25 degrees. Slightly windy and rainy on Sunday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Azam Khan. Thanks for watching. Good night.